Dear student, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. Dear student, I am Muhammad Shahjahan, Assistant Professor, Department of Accounting, Milestone College, Uttara, Dhaka. Dear student, this is lecture 1 from chapter 7 and chapter 7 is cost accounting. Dear student, after this lecture, you will be able to have an idea about cost accounting. You will have an idea about objective of cost accounting. You will have an idea about method of cost accounting. You have an idea about cost accounting cycle. You have an idea about form of specimen of cost sheet. That means how you will prepare cost sheet. That means you can get a specimen format for cost sheet. Let's come to our class. Cost accounting. Dear student, cost accounting is defined as a systematic set of procedures for recording and reporting measurement of the cost of manufacturing goods and performing methods for recognizing, classifying, allocating, aggregating and reporting such costs and comparing them with standard costs. That means, dear student, you know that cost accounting is a different types of accounting. It is not financial accounting. Dear student, you know that there are different types of accounting, like in class 9, 10 you have learned maximum thing of financial accounting. Then in class 9, 10 you have also in chapter 11, that is cost accounting. Here also you have a chapter, it is cost accounting. You know that we have other types of accounting also, managerial accounting, cost accounting, financial accounting. So this is cost accounting, and in cost accounting we will discuss the costing. That means cost of manufacturing goods. That means in financial accounting you will find out the profit or loss from a set of expenses. Here you will find out the cost. Here also you will find out the profit or loss, but we will find out the cost of goods at first for setting up the selling price. So dear student, in cost accounting we will do accounting for manufacturing goods and performing service. What is the expenses behind this goods or service? So dear student, let's see next topics. Objective of cost accounting. That means why we will do cost accounting. Number one, collection and recording of cost data. Cost accounting will help us to collection and recording of cost data. Then classification of cost data. Then we will classify the cost. Then we will determine the cost. Then we will control if there is any excess. If we can compare with others, then we can control our expenses. We can reduce our cost. Then we can determine the selling price, one of the important objectives. Then budget and planning for next year. We can determine profit and loss, and we can take decision. We can take a decision. These are the most important objectives of cost accounting. Dear student, now method of costing in cost accounting. Dear student, earlier I have told you that this is a different types of accounting. This is one of the important part of accounting, and how we will do cost accounting. Number one, at first, cost accounting are three method. We can calculate cost accounting in three method. Number one, job costing. Number one, job costing, and job costing are two types. This is base costing, then contract costing. On the other hand, other types of methods of costing is process costing, output or unit based costing, operating costing, multiple costing, operation costing, and departmental costing. And there are other method, that is firm costing. Dear student, These are the methods for cost accounting. Inshallah, in future we will discuss in details about best costing, contract costing. Actually, when you will be in senior classes, mainly BBA, MB class, in that types, different types of costing we'll discuss. Dear student, you know that you are a student of intermediate class. That's why we will discuss just primary things for costing. Dear student, now cost accounting cycle. Dear student, you know accounting cycle. In financial accounting, you learn a accounting cycle, as well as in cost accounting also we have a cost accounting cycle. At first, for cost accounting cycle, at first we will identify the cost data. That means for producing any product, what is the cost. Then we will record that cost. Then we will classify the cost. Then we will determine total and per unit cost. We will fix up a selling price. Then we will control if there is any excess cost we can control. Then we will planning and preparation and budget, and we will take decision. These are the cost accounting cycle. Dear student, I hope all of you understand. Dear student, our next topics, the most important topics. Dear student, today we are for discussing these topics because after these things you can do all the required math for your exam for intermediate level. You can, dear student. So listen carefully, and if you have any confusion, of course, after the class you can discuss with me. Dear student, if you face any confusion, all that also you can ask. Dear student, look at first you have to write the name of the company. Then we are preparing cost sheet for manufacturing goods. We are preparing cost sheet for service, or service also you can write for the year ended 31st December 2008, 9, 18, 19, 20. In a year you can write element of cost, then details taka and total taka. Dear student, at first we have to write opening stock of raw materials. Dear student, you know what is raw materials. Raw materials is the that materials which is part and parcel of a produced goods. Like dear student, we would like to produce a books. So for producing books, what we need paper. So this is the raw material. If you would like to produce shirt, that then cloth is the raw material. If you would like to make cloth, then thread is the raw material. Dear student, so you understand what is raw material. That means which one is the main element for producing that goods. This is raw material. So if we have any opening stock of raw material, that we will write at first. Then purchase of raw material. Purchase of raw material. If you purchase any raw material, that you will write here. Then if there is any return, you know that at the time of purchase it may be return, it may be discount. That means if any damaged goods you can return it. If there is any discount allowed by purchaser, seller, then you can discard, subtract it. Then abnormal loss of raw material. If there is any abnormal or accidental loss of raw material, that also we have to subtract. Then if there is any carriage and freight on material purchase we paid, then we have to add. Dear student, you have to memorize, you have to learn it, you have to write it as much as you can, so that you can understand easily. So what I have written here, at first opening raw material, then whatever raw material we have purchased, then if there is any return or if discount received, then if there is any abnormal loss, it will subtract. Then we have to add carriage or freight of raw material purchase. So that is usable raw material. That means now you get the usable raw materials, whatever the raw materials available in your factory for producing the goods, that is usable raw materials. From that, if you list the stock of raw materials, that means at the end of the year how much raw materials if you have, if you subtract it, then we will find raw material used or raw material consumed. That means whatever raw materials used for producing that product. I hope you will find out how we can find out raw material used. Dear student, nowadays you are under creative age. So in this time, you know that full math will not, it will not come. It will come like in the exam for requirement A, find the amount of raw material used. So if you can learn this formula, just from the question you will find out the data, you will find that the amount, you will write it, and at the After addition or subtraction, you will find the amount of raw material used. Again, I am telling, dear student, for 2 marks, it may come, find the amount of raw material used. So if you can learn this formula, easily you can. I hope, of course, all of you will write in a paper nicely so that later on you can see the formula and do the math easily, dear student. Now next, raw material used. Dear student, from last slide we had find raw material used. So at first you will write the raw material used, and with that we have to add direct labor or wages. Direct labor is wages means the labor who is working to process the product to make it finished product. They are the direct labor. That means the labor who are directly related with the production, and their wages will be the next element of cost. So here raw material use, then we have to add direct labor, then we have to add other direct expenses, and it will cost prime cost. Dear student, another question, creative question, find the amount of prime cost. The formula is this: at first you have to find the amount of raw material used. With that we have to add direct labor or wages, and then we have to add if there is any other direct expenditure. That means raw material plus labor plus other direct expenditure, then it is a prime cost. Then it is a prime cost. Dear student, it is a formula of MCQ also. Dear student, our next topics, add factory overhead. Add factory overhead. That means with the prime cost, we have to add the factory overhead. What is factory overhead? The expenses occurred in the factory, indirect expenses, of course, indirect expenses, because all the direct expenses, direct material, direct labor, and other direct expenses we have written already. It is in prime cost. Then now we have indirect expenses. We have to add factory overhead. That means the expenses which occurred in the factory indirectly, that is factory overhead. For example, I have written here indirect raw materials, indirect wages, other indirect expenses, factory rent, factory tax, insurance, electricity bill, water, fuel, gas, etc., factory repair, maintenance, cleaning expenses, depreciation of factory building, depreciation of factory stationery, drawing office salary, factory manager salary, less sale of defective goods. Then you will get the factory overhead. That means we have to add all this item. From that we have to subtract if there is any defective goods at the time of preparing it. If there is any defective goods, if you get some money from that, that we have to subtract. Then this is factory overhead. This is factory overhead, dear students. So in the exam it may come, find the amount of factory overhead. That means we have to add all this element, then you will get the factory overhead. And with the prime cost, if we add factory overhead, then the thing is that factory cost or works cost or total production cost. Three different things. Factory cost, mainly it is factory cost. Then it may be works cost, some organization it said work cost, it may be production cost also, dear student. So I hope all of you understand how you can find out prime cost. Again I am telling, with direct raw material, direct labor, and other direct expenditure, then it is a prime cost. And with the prime cost, if you add factory overhead, then it will be factory cost or works cost or total production cost. I hope you understand, dear student. Our next topics, factory cost. From last pages we find out factory cost, works cost, or total production cost. This is this amount. Then with that, if we add opening work in process, then we will find cost of good produce. That means what is the cost for good produce. Factory cost is added with opening working process. That means whatever working process goods is in the factory, that we have to add with the current year factory cost. Then you will find out the cost of good produce. From that, if you subtract closing working process, then it is cost of good manufactured or cost of production. Dear student, cost of good manufacture or cost of goods production, very important requirement. Find the amount of cost of production. Then how will get? Again I am telling, at first you write the direct raw material, then direct labor, then other direct expenditure, then it is prime cost. Then with prime cost we have added factory overhead, then you got the factory cost. And with this factory cost we have to add opening working process, and we have to subtract closing working process, then it is cost of good manufactured or production. Dear student, now With this cost of good manufacture and production, we have to add opening stock of finished goods and we have to subtract closing stock of finished goods. Then this is cost of goods sold. Another important requirement, find the amount of cost of goods sold. Then cost of good manufacture added with opening stock of finished goods. This is goods available for sale. If we subtract closing stock of finished goods, then this is cost of goods sold. With this cost of goods sold, dear student, now we have to add operating or commercial expenses. Operating or commercial, that means to run the business, whatever expenditure, other expenditure occurred, that is operating or commercial expenses, like marketing and office expense, office manager salary, office rent, electricity, gas, water, stationery, office and administrative overhead, selling and distribution overhead, all the things we have to add. Then this is called operating or commercial expenses. So earlier we have cost of goods sold, add operating expenses. This is total cost or cost of sales, dear student. And then profit, that means net sales. If we sell 100 taka, if cost is 80 taka, that means net sales minus cost 20 taka is your profit. If profit is given, then we have to add total cost plus profit, desired profit, then it is selling price. That means sales minus sales discount, it is net sales. With that, if we deduct profit, then that is total cost. Dear student, I hope understand. I will request you that again and again you will take the screenshot, you will take the screenshot of this formula. If you keep it with you, if you write it with you, then easily you can do the math of this chapter, because this is very easy chapter. This is only formula based chapter, dear student. Actually cost accounting is not this. This is very big chapter. In senior classes you have different subject on cost accounting. That means for 100 marks you will do, for 300 marks you have to do. So here only the basic idea about the cost accounting, and if you learn this formula, inshallah you can do it easily. If you keep it with your hand, you can see, you can practice and practice. One day inshallah you can memorize. And if you cannot understand anything, of course you will discuss with me, so that I can help you. I hope all of you are fine. Thank you very much. May Allah help all of us. Allah Hafiz.